Well, we got chopped off as I suspected, and so we're back. The time is 3:11 p.m. on the 11th of February 2024, and I just have popped back to finish off chapter 36, the last story in the book of Great Australian Ghost Stories by Richard Davis, and it's going to be a very short video because we only have about 2 pages left, but I can relax now, I'm not in a hurry. So we got cut off at the point where Mrs. Steele's body had been discovered, and her son, who was kept chained up for 40 years, was found, and I quote, "in a wretched state, distressed, hungry and thirsty, curled up on the ground at the end of his chain. He could not speak, his hair was long and matted, and his overgrown fingernails had curled back into the palms of his hands. He was taken to an asylum in Goulburn, but died soon after. A few years later, a local youth who had been to see the Hitchcock thriller Psycho 3 times came up to the house one night, found the caretaker, Jack Simpson, in the dairy and shot him dead. To this day, the macabre message the murderer or someone else scratched on the dairy wall, 'Die Jack, ha ha,' can be clearly read. When the ABC crew were filming the dairy at night, they set up floodlights around the building. Because it was such a cold night, the Ryans lit a fire in the dining room fireplace, but within minutes they and the ABC crew were gathered outside, oblivious to the cold, witnessing an amazing sight. In the bright glare of the floodlights, smoke was rising from the second-floor chimney of the house, curling neatly in the air, and then being sucked directly down the chimney of the dairy. And the strange events kept happening. A Sydney man drove into the car park one day with his family. Even before he got out of his car, the man complained that something invisible had attached itself to his chest and was clutching him painfully. After viewing the house, the man said he was feeling very ill. For several weeks he could not rid himself of the strange sensation. Back home he went to a doctor who could find nothing physically wrong with him and, surprisingly, suggested an exorcist. Suddenly, one night, while he lay in bed, whatever it was that had attached itself to him let go, and the pain ceased. The man was enormously relieved, but horrified to see whatever it was had not gone very far. Both he and his wife could see a faint and indistinct form clinging to their bedroom wall beside the light switch. Even as recently as 2010, a group of professional Ghostbusters visited Monte Cristo and got more than they bargained for. When they mentioned that they hoped to be able to communicate with a spirit and record its voice, a clear response, "Pick me," came out of nowhere, and when the ghost of Mrs. Crawley repeated her oft-heard order to leave her house, her voice was captured on tape for the first time. Mrs. C was also held responsible for violently rattling a firmly closed window when the group entered her former chapel and for the series of loud bangs that echoed through the house each time one of the group asked if there were spirits present. There are many more stories about Monte Cristo, too many to retell here, and more than enough to earn Monte Cristo a sinister reputation. Since the demolition of Banjaraby at Eastern Creek in 1958, the title Australia's Most Haunted House deservedly belongs to the Junee attraction. The mysterious old house is a popular tourist destination and deserves to be visited by everyone who travels to the town, not least for the proof it provides of what can be achieved by private individuals dedicated to preserving our national heritage. The extensive collection of beautifully restored horse-drawn vehicles displayed in the coach house should also not be missed. But if you experience any strange feelings and witness anything that defies explanation while visiting, don't be surprised. It's all part of the mystery and fascination of old Monte Cristo. A final word from the author. I acknowledge that stories of ghosts and spirits equal in richness and diversity to any in this collection abound in the traditional culture of Aboriginal Australians. But to do justice to them in printed words requires specialised knowledge and understanding greater than I possess. I also offer an apology to any reader who might have been offended by the occasional use of discriminatory terms like blackfellow, Chinaman, or spinster on the preceding pages. Such terms reflect the customs and attitudes of the times in which many of these stories are set, and in the interests of verisimilitude, I have retained them in the retelling, when under normal circumstances I would not use them. I'm starting to like you better, Richard Davies, apart from your lack of commas in certain sections of this book. All stories in this collection are presented in good faith. I make no claim as to the authenticity or accuracy of any of these stories, and would like to make it clear that although positive statements may be made, the house is haunted, he or she said, as examples, they should be taken to mean that the location is reputed, supposed, or believed to be haunted, and the individual was reported as saying. Readers should also be aware that the sites of many of these stories are on private property. The inclusion of a story in this collection does not mean that the protagonists in the story, or owners, or occupiers of the premises, believe in ghosts, or are willing to answer casual inquiries, discuss the story, or countenance trespass on their property. I willingly acknowledge the generous assistance provided to me by so many people from all over Australia in the preparation of my first book about ghosts, The Ghost Guide to Australia, published in 1998, and which I have drawn on extensively for this volume. Thanks are also due to Brigitte Doyle of ABC Books for her support of this project, and to Rochelle Fernandez at HarperCollins and Kate O'Donnell, who brought her exceptional skills to editing the manuscript. Well, Kate, don't forget the commas, baby girl. trying to describe. I'm laughing because there's errors in my own writings too. Nobody's perfect, people do. Trying to describe supernatural phenomena and convey witnesses' emotions in words requires a wide vocabulary, so let's allow Dr. Samuel Johnson, that roly-poly, bewigged father of the modern English dictionary, to whom all writers are indebted, to have the last word on the subject of ghosts. It is wonderful that thousands of years have now elapsed since the creation of the world. He's using the biblical idea that the world's only 6,000 years old, which is ridiculous, people of Earth. But anyway, and still it is undecided whether or not there has ever been an instance of the spirit of any person appearing after death. All argument is against it, but all belief is for it. You better not meet a ghost that's older than 6,000 years old then, or have his worldview and his wig slipped sideways. To you, Dr. Samuel Johnson. Here's some photographs of other books. Great Australian Flying Doctor Stories, CWA Stories, which is Country Women of Australia, Flood Stories, Bushfire Stories, Working Dog Stories, that might be fun to read, and Outback Towns and Pubs. It's always good stories in pubs. Anyway, we have concluded this entire book. It's been an odyssey. I'm tired, but it was rather enjoyable. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, people of Earth. And on that note, I bid you goodbye. Have a wonderful day, night, evening. Don't forget to honour thy ancestors that love you. I don't honour my progenitors, just saying, for obvious reasons, but I do honour, my forebears, quite some multitudes of generations back. They can't all have been rotten, can they? I must have had some good uns in amongst them. So there you go, people of Earth. Honour the land you walk upon, or the seas you sail upon, or the air you're flying through. Honour all of existence on this amazingly spinning blue planet, and hold your head up high and remember, we never truly die. We all go on somewhere, somewhere else, somehow. Some of us just like to rattle the chains and bother the living, just keep everything amusing, or enact some kind of cosmic vengeance upon their living. You've heard all the stories. Some of them were quite delightful, some of them were quite terrifying. It is what it is. Life, l'chaim. Be in it while you can. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now, Planet Earth.